You find a shallow pool after 3 days without water. Your legs are trembling and your throat is paper dry. The human body shuts down in roughly 3 days without water. But the wrong source could kill you just as fast. Early humans faced exactly this decision every single day. They had no tests, no labels, and no written guides. No knowledge system existed to help them make the call. The challenge appeared on every terrain early humans ever crossed. Dehydration does something deeply cruel to the human mind. It destroys clear thinking well before it destroys the body. So when you most needed sharp judgment, you had the least. How on earth did any of our ancestors navigate this? This was not a rare emergency. It was daily life. Across 2 million years and countless unknown landscapes, they had to get it right. Water did not just sustain early humans, it selected them. The water looks perfect, crystal clear, cold, and still. And yet, it could kill you within 72 hours. Cholera bacteria are completely invisible to the naked eye. Typhoid lives in water with no color, no smell, no taste. Some of the most lethal water sources on Earth look like paradise. This is what makes water unlike almost every other ancient threat. A predator announces itself. Water never does. Toxic algal blooms can release cyanotoxins deadly to large mammals. Yet many blooms only turn visibly green after the toxin has peaked. So what exactly were early humans supposed to look for? Visual inspection, it turns out, is a dangerously unreliable strategy. The clearest-looking sources in any landscape can be the deadliest. A stagnant mountain pool fed by underground springs can appear pristine. Meanwhile, a murky brown puddle nearby might be perfectly safe to drink. Appearance is not just an imperfect signal, it is often an inverse one. The water that kills most efficiently is the water that looks safest. Nothing in the visible environment warns you that something is wrong. Beauty, in the ancient world, was never a promise of safety. Your ancestors had no books, no labs, no tests. Not one person alive understood what a bacterium was. Germ theory didn't exist until the mid-1800s. Chemistry as a science was thousands of years away. And yet, humans have walked this planet for millions of years. They colonized every continent except Antarctica. Each new landscape brought entirely unknown water sources. Each one carried the potential to kill silently. How does a species survive a threat it cannot name? The answer points to something beneath rational thought entirely. Evolution is a brutal and patient teacher. For millions of generations, the wrong choice meant death. The individuals who drank bad water died before reproducing. Their error was never passed forward. The ones who hesitated, who felt something wrong, survived. That hesitation, repeated across endless generations, became instinct. Researchers frame this as an evolved aversion response. The body knew the answer long before the mind asked the question. You smell something wrong before you see it. That reflex is not learned, it is inherited. Hydrogen sulfide rises from any water starved of oxygen. Is the rotten egg odor you recognize instantly. Your nose detects it at 1 part per billion. No other gas triggers aversion at such trace concentrations. Evolution calibrated that sensitivity over millions of years of exposure. The smell arrived in the brain as a verdict, not a suggestion. Color was the second chemical messenger your ancestors trusted. Green water signals cyanobacteria, one of Earth's oldest killers. Cyanobacteria have been producing toxins for over 2 billion years. Orange or rust-red water betrays dissolved iron or iron bacteria. Neither color appears in the clean water that kept people alive. These tints are not aesthetic flaws. They are chemical flags. What about the water that looked perfectly clear? Dissolved minerals left a bitter, metallic, or sharp, salty taste. Humans carry at least 25 distinct bitter taste receptor types. That variety exists because poisons come in many chemical forms. Even the surface carried signals, an oily sheen, a visible film. Your body was a laboratory. The senses were its instruments. Your stomach turns before your brain can explain why. That gut lurch is not weakness. It is ancient engineering. Scientists call it the disgust reflex, and it fires involuntarily. It activates in milliseconds, faster than conscious thought forms. Your body has already decided long before you have. Psychologist Paul Rozin spent decades mapping this exact response. He found it triggers a full-body cascade of rejection. Your face contorts, your throat tightens, your stomach heaves. All three happen simultaneously, not one after another. That coordination reveals a system designed purely for speed. The insula, a region deep in the brain, drives it. It processes contamination signals before the rational cortex responds. This system was being refined across millions of years. Every ancestor who lacked it likely died before reproducing. Why would natural selection invest so heavily in a feeling? Because the feeling was reliably saving lives every generation. The reflex is calibrated specifically to biological contamination cues. Rot, decay, and high pathogen load all trigger it reliably. Contaminated water hits those same ancient neurological tripwires perfectly. The feeling you call disgust is actually a survival algorithm. You notice the zebras won't drink from that pool. Every large animal nearby has given it a wide berth. That absence of drinking is itself a kind of signal. Early humans were extraordinarily precise observers of animal behavior. They didn't need to taste the water themselves. Nearby species had already run the experiment for them. A cluster of dead birds near a spring is never a coincidence. It is a warning written in carcasses. Hydrogen sulfide, heavy metals, and toxic algae are all invisible. But they're not invisible to the animals that drink first. Migrating herbivore herds were perhaps the most valuable signal of all. Wildebeest, antelope, and ancient horses traveled circuits refined over thousands of years. Those circuits traced the safest drinking water across entire landscapes. Why risk the unknown when 10,000 animals have already tested it? Animals converging on a source signaled safety in numbers and in chemistry. Animals avoiding a source announced danger without a single word. Other species were unwitting participants in an ongoing safety trial. Early humans didn't discover safe water. They outsourced the discovery entirely. Imagine knowing a spring is deadly without ever tasting it. That is exactly what thousands of generations before you achieved. No single human lifetime is long enough to test every source. But a community's shared memory can span 10,000 years. Anthropologists call this process cumulative cultural evolution. Each generation adds a fragment to what the last one knew. Over millennia, those fragments become something extraordinary. Australian Aboriginal songlines preserve this phenomenon with stunning clarity. Deadly springs were assigned their own verses in ceremony. A community member who forgot the verse could drink the wrong water. The song was not art, it was a survival manual. So how did entire seasonal migration routes stay reliably safe? Elders carried the territorial map inside their memory, not their hands. They knew which rivers swelled toxic with runoff after certain rains. They knew which springs dried up, leaving concentrated minerals behind. That knowledge was transmitted verbally, ritually, and through daily example. Children watched adults bypass certain sources before they could ask why. The explanation came later, wrapped in story, taboo, or legend. Researchers studying indigenous territorial memory find this pattern on every continent. From the Kalahari to Siberia, poison water often carried a name. Naming a danger is one of the oldest forms of warning. The true survival weapon was never individual. It was collective memory. Right now, your body is running ancient survival software. The slight disgust you feel near murky water is not random. It is millions of years old. Evolution did not just shape your bones and your brain. It shaped your feelings, your gut reactions, your hesitations. Psychologist Paul Rozin spent decades studying exactly this reflex. It activates faster than conscious thought can even form. Your body decides before your mind does. That speed was the whole point. A hesitation of 2 seconds once meant survival. So here is the question that should quietly unsettle you. How many of your instincts were written by death? Every aversion you feel toward rot and decay has an author. That author is generations of ancestors who suffered and survived. Their pain was quietly translated into your biology. You did not inherit their memories. You inherit the shape those memories carved into your body. Every time you flinch from bad water, you remember nothing. And yet, somehow, you remember everything.